This is Accents Part 3. Now let me make a quick note here. If you have not yet watched Accents Part 1 and 2, please go back and watch those clips. If you haven't seen Parts 1 and 2, Part 3, I'm afraid, will not make any sense at all. Okay? So here we go. Accents Part 3. In Part 1, we learned if a word ends in a vowel, an N, or an S, the next to last vowel gets stressed. And I pointed out that about 80% of Spanish words do in fact end in a vowel, an N, or an S. So about 80% of Spanish words, the next to last vowel gets stressed. In Part 2, we discussed lizard words, words that end in L, Z, R, D. Words that end in L, Z, R, D, it's not the next to last vowel gets stressed, it's the very, very last vowel. Okay, now this is the third and final installment in our little trilogy here. It's Accents 3, the accent mark. Now, in Spanish, just like every other language, there are exceptions, okay? An accent mark is a big arrow. It says, hey, don't stress the vowel you expect to stress, stress me instead. So what an accent mark is, it's a guide to pronunciation. An accent mark helps foreigners, or native speakers for that matter, to pronounce words correctly. So let's look at 9 words. Each one of these words, I hope, is a word you know, a word you're comfortable with, and each one of these ends in a vowel, an N, or an S, so you expect to stress the next to last vowel. And to make that point, I've underlined the next to last vowel in these first 9 words. But notice, in all 9 of these words, you're not stressing the next to last vowel, you're stressing something else. And there's an accent mark that says, hey, don't stress the next to last vowel, stress me. Café, México, pública, audición, campeón, bailarín, estás, simpáticos, autobús. And again, notice, in each one of these verbs, in each one of these words, you are not stressing the next to last vowel. I underline the next to last vowel. But in each of these words, there's an accent mark that says, hey, stress this letter. Stress this letter. Okay? Now, let's talk about lizard words. Words that end in L, Z, R, D. In lizard words, we expect to stress the very last vowel. But check it out. Here are 3 lizard words where you're not stressing the next last vowel, you're stressing something else. And to remind us and help us with that, Spanish people put an accent mark to say, hey, stress this vowel. Don't stress the last vowel. Baseball, football, lápiz. So again, accent marks are a guide to pronunciation. Accent marks say, hey, don't stress the vowel you'd normally stress, stress me instead. So again, accent marks help everybody put the emphasis on the right syllable. I hope this has been helpful. This is another cast iron bank. It's Bugs Bunny. What you do is you put, as Uncle Sam, you put a coin in his hand and you push this little button. And I guess that's where he gets the money to buy all of his carrots. Yay. Cool.